Good morning, Mega Podlings. It is Crazy Joe. It is Tuesday night, 9 o'clock. Time for Krazy After Dark. And let me get do I have the volume down? I hope I have the volume down. Yes, I have the volume down. Welcome. Now I can read the chat as we go. Looks like nobody's here, but I'm here, so let's get Krazy After Dark. I'll just keep repeating that. Krazy After Dark. It's time to get crazy. I don't know. I got nothing. I got nothing. What is going on today? What is going on today that's worth talking about? Well, I saw Scoob. I have a review up. Maybe you saw my review. Maybe you didn't see my review, but I did see Scoob. And from what I understand, it did fairly well. Oh, here we go. Bohemian Movies and More is here. Hello. Greg White is here. Kyle is here. Gary. Gary says, I missed the stream ending joke last week. I thought I got it. I'm sorry. Mike is also here. Welcome. Yeah, so Kyle says, saw that you loved Scoob. I did. Loved might be strong, but I really enjoyed it. I think it was a really, really fun movie and a fantastic way to bring Scooby-Doo back to the screen. I saw some complaints that it kind of strayed from the Scooby-Doo formula. I applaud that, quite frankly, because there's 33 direct-to-video Scooby-Doo movies, 33 of them. And this, even though it went direct-to-video, we have to remember this is a theatrical release. This was supposed to be a theatrical release. This would have been a theatrical release were it not for COVID-19. So we gotta look at it in that lens. And what can you offer that's different that you're not getting from 33 other direct-to-video movies? So they changed it up a little bit, and I thought it really worked beautifully. James says, hey, Crazy Joe, yesterday I watched Scoobed and thought it was disappointing. It came out too late since the cinematic universe phase is already over. I totally disagree. The cinematic universe phase is definitely not over. The Marvel universe is going strong, and the DC universe is now going strong as well. They got off to a rough start, but after the last several films, they are now critical hits, and they're doing fairly well with audiences as well. Aquaman obviously made $1 billion, and I think we're going to see big box office for Batman and Wonder Woman 2. Wonder Woman 2 is a question mark, but not because of the movie, because of the timing. And will people be going back to the theaters? It's a very strange movie. I did a whole video on how will we know what the hits are, and that's a good question. Like if Wonder Woman doesn't perform at the box office, how are they going to know if it's a legitimate bomb, meaning it's a movie that didn't make money because people didn't want to see it, or it didn't make money because people were afraid to go to the theaters? That's going to be really, really, really... I don't know how they're going to do that. How they're going to make that judgment. Like, for example, Scoob. This was supposed to be a theatrical release. It was supposed to be the start of a Hanna-Barbera cinematic universe, which I really, really hope comes to fruition. Because after what I saw in Scoob, I definitely want to see them do more. I definitely want that Captain Caveman and Blue Falcon movie and characters they didn't even get to, like Jabberjaw. I want to see that. So I hope that they look at the numbers and say, oh yeah, this is good. We can justify moving forward with this cinematic universe. But the next one obviously should go to theaters, because this one was supposed to go to theaters. So it's a very, very interesting place we're at now. Lisa's here. Welcome, Lisa. Lisa and I were hanging out with Frank Oz and Dave Goles and Fran Brill and Bill Beretta the other night. That was great. Jesse's here. Welcome, Jesse. Joey Baseball says, hey, Big Sexy. Well, hey, Joey Baseball. James says, I never saw you at Cinema Sickness. Oh, hey, he's talking to Joey Baseball. I was going to say, no, I have not been to Cinema Sickness's live streams in quite a while because of COVID-19. Yeah, Tuffy Perkins is here. Welcome, Tuffy. Joey says, what did I think of Simon Cowell in Scoob? He was fine. I'm not really a Simon Cowell fan. I don't like American Idol. Like, that's not my thing. But it definitely is a good throwback to the whole Scooby-Doo thing of, like, hey, look, it's, they'd always run into a celebrity. It's Don Knotts. Hey, look, it's Sonny and Cher. That was a very Scooby-Doo thing. So modernizing it and making it Simon Cowell, I mean, it worked. Joey says that's not a spoiler, right? Well, Simon Cowell does show up within the first 10 minutes of the movie, so I don't think it's a spoiler. It's not like it's like some twist in the movie. James says, today at Walmart, I bought Mortal Kombat on Blu-ray for $5. It's great. It's basically Street Fighter if Roger Corman directed it. The Mortal Kombat movie from the 90s, I saw that in the theater. I never saw the sequel. I heard the sequel was not very good. And full disclosure, I didn't really care for the first one. I know some people really liked that. When it came out, it was quite popular. But I couldn't get into it myself. But Dave Perillo, I believe, liked it quite a bit. But then he went and saw the second one, Mortal Kombat Annihilation, and he hated that one. He came and told me, I seem to remember him showing up at my door the night he went to see Mortal Kombat Annihilation. I think he went on a date with his girlfriend. They went and saw it. He took his girlfriend home, then just showed up at my house to bitch about how much he hated the movie. It's funny the memories you have, like years later, the things that stick with you. Gary says, you forgot the third option. When are we going to know if we're going to know movies are hit this year? The theaters not being able to operate at full capacity. That I don't think is going to be an issue, Gary. The theaters not operating at full capacity, I don't even think will matter, because there's so few movies that are going to be in theaters. For example, when theaters open, you have a multiplex theater, and the only movies that are going to be open are Unhinged and Tenet. So that means on 10 screens, you're going to have 2 movies. So you will easily be able to social distance people because it's going to be playing on so many screens. So I don't think... now, if they had 10 movies out and Tenet can only accommodate a third of the theater because they're spreading people out, then that would obviously affect the bottom line for Tenet, because you're not able to pack the theater to capacity. But seeing as you can get those people over like 5 or 6 theaters, I don't think that's going to factor in. Kyle says, you and I have the fact that we like All Star by Smash Mouth. Doesn't everybody like All Star by Smash Mouth? That's a classic 90s tune. Joey says, I like Simon Cowell, but Gordon Ramsay would have made more sense since they were opening a restaurant. I hadn't thought of that. That could have worked. Bohemian says, I hated Simon Cowell until after I learned he put One Direction together. I did not know that. Mike says, have you tried to reach out to have a conversation with Cool Duder like you did with Wet Movie, CS, Rick? You and him are very knowledgeable on all things cinema, and I think it would be interesting. Mike, I want to reach out to Cool Duder. Cool Duder and I have never conversed. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think he and I have ever spoken. And when I say spoke, I don't mean in person. I mean like just online shooting messages. Maybe somewhere we did, but I don't think he and I have ever had any communication between the two of us. Obviously, Rick and Cinema Sickness are my friends. Nola Deej is my friend. Chris Stoltz from Muppet Stuff is my friend. I'm friends with Heath from Serial at Midnight. And these are all people I've had on. And Wet Movie 1, I didn't know him as well, but he and I had conversed back and forth before. He'd come into this chat before. He'd come into the live chat while we're doing these live streams every now and then. So he and I had a level of familiarity that I didn't feel weird reaching out to him. Cool Duder, I feel a little bit weirder because we really don't have any kind of a relationship. I'll have to give it a shot, though. I have a couple other people that I reached out to. And a couple people have shot me down. A couple people didn't want to do it. One guy I wanted to have on, but he didn't have the ability to do this via Skype, so we just couldn't make it happen, which is a shame because I really wanted to have him on. Maybe we'll figure it out in the future, but not yet. Not yet. We've figured it out. Lisa says, that was pretty great live stream for the anniversary Saturday. Amazing that Frank seemed excited to do the voices for the stream. Have to rewatch it this week. Yeah, it's very... Frank Oz is notorious that he does not like doing his character voices. If you meet Frank Oz on the street, if you do an interview with Frank Oz, if you say, could you do Cookie Monster for me? Could you do Fozzie Bear? He will not do it. He's a little notorious for that. He won't do it. He doesn't like it. He says, I don't do voices, like, unless I'm acting. I don't do it like that. Like I don't turn it on and off like a light switch. Like I got to get into it. I got to prepare. It's always been his stance. So he's doing a live stream for to raise some money for hospital workers, and it was celebrating the life of Jim Henson on the 30th anniversary of his death. Jim Henson's been dead for 30 years as of last week. So the Muppet guys got together on this live stream, kind of shared their memories of Jim, celebrated Jim, and they were taking questions. And Frank's wife was the one who was kind of reading the questions to him. And you could see how cautious she was being, because Frank is notorious. He does not like being asked to do voices. And his wife, Victoria, just very, very, very gingerly says, I don't know how you guys feel about it. I don't know. The audience is overwhelmingly asking for you guys to do the voices. And you can tell she was nervous bringing it up because Frank doesn't like to do voices. And Frank Oz immediately said, what do you guys think? You guys want to do the voices? Threw it to the other puppeteers. They were all like, yeah, we can do it. And Frank's like, okay. Did Grover, did Cookie Monster. And it was just kind of a moment of, holy crap, Frank Oz did that? Because Frank Oz doesn't do that. So anyway, I'm sorry. That was my rant. But it was a great moment when watching that happen. James says, does anybody remember Hoops and Yo-Yo? They were great mascots of Hallmark. I did not realize they were gone. Are they no longer the mascots of Hallmark? I didn't know they went anywhere. By the way, just a reminder, we have our good buddy Super Chat Hippo with us, as always. Super Chat Hippo is here. Kevin says, you and I never spoke on Skype. Yeah, I have never spoken with Kyle either. Most of the people who I know, I do know through this format, through chatting back and forth, through messages on Instagram, that kind of thing. There's very, very few people who I actually know in person. That would be Rick, Cinema Sickness, Adam LeWoo, Splorer and Ryan, and Greg's Game Room. Those are the guys who and Tampa J. Those are the guys I've hung out with. Those are the guys I've met and hung out with. YouTube personalities. Those are the people who I actually know. Then there's a couple other people who I've never met in person, but I know them through this cyber realm where we're friends on Facebook. We're friends. We there's people I know on that level. But yeah, like, I mean, if you talk about the YouTube personalities I know in person, you can boil it down to like 5 or 6. It's Rick, Cinema Sickness, Adam LeWoo, Greg's Game Room, Splorer and Ryan, Tampa J. I think that's it. I think it's those 6 that I've met in person. If I'm forgetting someone, I apologize. I don't mean to be leaving anyone out, but that's what I think. Speaking of Greg, he is here. Greg says, got any donuts? I'm strangely interested in one right now. Was it something I said? Did I say something about donuts? I might have. I don't remember. Joey said, Jim Henson called Frank Oz the greatest puppeteer in the world. That's possible. Frank Oz is very talented. Toaster Burner says, happy haircut, Joe. Thank you. James says, I've been trying to meet you. One of these days, man. One of these days. I'm not leaving the house much these days. I wonder why, but one of these days. Gary says, we spoke on Skype. That's true. Gary and I did, we did one video that got split into 3 videos, but you can find them on Gary's channel, or I posted them all on MegaPodTastic.com. Go to MegaPodTastic.com. You'll find it. 3 videos of Gary and I talking about the Marvel Cinematic Universe. James says, say, Crazy Joe, I recently binge-watched Johnny Bravo, and it became one of my favorite Cartoon Network shows again. Forgot how funny the show is. I like it. I haven't seen it, all of it. You know, I never watched it. It wasn't like a thing that I had to watch like weekly. So I never saw like all of Johnny Bravo, but I like what I saw. Marie is here. Marie and Martinez Joe, they are 2 people who I hope in the near future I'll be meeting in person. We were supposed to get together in person this month. This May, the month we are living in now. We were all supposed to get together, and the universe had other plans. It didn't happen, unfortunately. But someday. Sav says, hey, movies and more. Conor McGregor's here. If there was one Fox property you wish had a ride at Disney World, what would you choose? Probably, I don't know, Planet of the Apes, or I guess Planet of the Apes or Independence Day. It's hard. I mean, I'm pulling that off the top of my head. I'd have to like really stop and think about it, I guess. Greg says, nah, Adam's video today went to Randy Donuts. Oh, yes, that's true. Adam was at Randy's Donuts today. I did catch that. Yeah. We already did that one. Sorry. Joey says, did I see that Laura Legend surpassed 100,000 subscribers? And yet I still can't get to 2,000. I still can't. People, I'm telling you, man, there's something about this channel that people they're just not that into it. They're like, yeah, we're kind of into this. Well, you know, you can hit about 1,000, but a little over 1,000, but yeah, you're not good enough for 2,000. I guess this channel is mediocre. I don't know. I try though. I try. Frank says, has anyone seen the movie Scoob? Is it any good? Frank, I posted a review. I really, really enjoyed Scoob. I liked it a lot. In fact, I got some of the toys right here. I got the toys. I dug it quite a bit. Sab says Scoob's good. Sav also wants to have a beer together. I would like that, Sav. You are in England, so having a beer with you would be doubly great because A, we'd be hanging out, and B, it would mean I was in England, and I'd like to go to England. Kyle says, I hope I meet you, Joe. Well, you know, it's always possible. It's always possible. I'm not that inaccessible, you know? There's certain areas where you're always pretty much guaranteed to find me. You go to RetroCon any given year, you're going to find me there all 3 days. And it's not that big a show, so you can easily find me. I go to Dragon Con almost every year. I mean, there's certain places where it's not hard to catch up with me. Lisa says, I've been wanting donuts lately, so Adam's Randy's Donuts trip did not help today. Here you get Honeydew Donuts, Dunkin', and Allie's Donuts. Dunkin' sucks now. Ever since, because now they're Dunkin', they're like, oh, we're downplaying donuts, and now their donut selection has gone in the toilet. It's like you go in, they don't have any donuts anymore. And unfortunately, they're like, in this area of the country, just about the only game in town. Like occasionally you'll run into a Krispy Kreme. There's a few Krispy Kremes in Pennsylvania. They're spread out though. They're not close together. You can get some donuts at Wawa, but they're not a big selection. Supermarkets, I guess, have donuts, but a good donut shop. We got one in this area. They've got 2 stores. There's 2 stores. called Yum Yums. They're pretty good. They're pretty good. Conor McGregor says, "What are your thoughts on what Robert Pattinson said about getting ready for Batman?" I really don't care. I really don't care at all. I mean, look at Robert Pattinson. He's not a small dude. I mean, he's pretty built as it is. So, I mean, we had Michael Keaton as Batman. I mean, look at Michael Keaton. Michael Keaton is not what you call ripped. So yeah, so Robert Pattinson doesn't want to lift some weights. I could give a damn. Just give a good performance, and I'm sure he will. Joey says, "You were just as sexy as Laura Legends. You will get to 100K one day." We'll see. We'll see. I have a feeling the older I get, the less likely of getting more subs I get, because the kids are going to come in and they're going to be like, "I don't want to watch a 50-year-old dude." So I don't know. Toaster Burner says, "You and Sav can meet in the middle to make it easier. Might need something that floats though." James says, "There needs to be a Star Wars, Star Trek, Battlestar Galactica crossover." That's something that could happen in a comic book. I don't think we'd ever see that in live action. Gary says, "I don't think it was a good idea for Warner to introduce Dino Mutt into Scoob, largely because Dino Mutt wasn't one of Hanna-Barbera's successful shows. To me, Dino Mutt seemed random in Scoob." I liked it. I actually liked it a lot. I think it positions them really well for a spinoff because the key is brand awareness. The key is brand awareness. So if you put out a Dino Mutt and Blue Falcon movie by themselves, they probably wouldn't have the brand awareness to do so well. But you put them as supporting characters in a Scooby-Doo movie and promote that Scooby-Doo movie heavily and put out toys and everything, then they seep into the public consciousness. Then if you want to do a spin-off movie, you've now achieved that kind of brand awareness. Brandon is here. Welcome, Brandon. Tim Hortons is working its way into my area. That's a steakhouse, right? I've never been to Tim Hortons. Lisa says, "Did you see they are collecting video clips of fans jamming out to track to the new Bill and Ted movie?" I did. You know what's really unfortunate? I'm really disappointed about this. There are rumors now that Bill and Ted Face the Music might be going direct to streaming and skipping theaters. That would break my heart. That would absolutely break my heart because we have waited 30 years. 30 years to get these characters back on the big screen. And after 30 years, it was finally going to happen. And now we may not get them on the big screen at all because they might go direct to streaming. It's the same thing that happened with Pee Wee Herman. I waited years for a new Pee Wee Herman movie. I was so excited to get a new Pee Wee Herman movie. And then we finally got a new Pee Wee Herman movie, and it went direct to Netflix. And it's like, I didn't get to go and see my Pee Wee Herman movie on the big screen. There's something about when a movie goes direct to streaming where it feels like it's now a direct to video movie. It feels like we're now looking at American Pie Presents Bandcamp or Darkman 2, American Psycho 2, all those direct to DVD, direct to video sequels that they barely brought back any of the cast and they were just cheap and like that's what it feels like to me. You would do Revenge of the Nerds and Revenge of the Nerds 2. Those are theatrical films. You go pay, you see them on the big screen. Revenge of the Nerds 3 goes direct to Fox and airs as a Fox made for TV movie. I mean, it feels like a real step down. It feels like it's a lesser movie, So that's heartbreaking to me to see these characters that I loved for so many years and desperately wanted to go back to see these movie characters on the big screen again. And then you don't get it. Like, I don't know, Pee-wee's Big Holiday still bothers me because I so wanted to see Pee-wee's Big Holiday on a movie screen. And I saw it on Netflix. Great. I saw it on Netflix. And now it looks like might have a similar fate with Bill and Ted. Oh, well. Sav says, Crazy Joe, when you come to England, we can go on a Blu-ray and 4K hunt and then go to the local pub for a few beers. Absolutely. Gary says, with regards to Star Trek Strange New Worlds, I would rather take 1 or 2 seasons of episodic TV than 1 or 2 seasons of serialized TV that goes unfinished like Crusade or Stargate Universe. I agree, but I don't think that would ever happen to Star Trek. Especially Star Trek on CBS All Access or whatever it's going to be called, because it's getting rebranded by Viacom, because now CBS and Viacom are one. I don't think that'll ever happen because it is their cash cow. Star Trek is that's their bread and butter over at CBS All Access, and they've been extremely successful because of Star Trek. That's why they keep just greenlighting more and more spinoffs. I know there's a lot of trolls out there on YouTube who like to claim these shows are failures. That is, quite frankly, the most asinine thing in the world, because you don't make spin-offs and multiple seasons to a show that fails, especially an expensive show that fails. If CBS was not getting a return on their investment, you wouldn't have seen a second season of Discovery. You certainly wouldn't have seen a third season of Discovery. You wouldn't have seen a spinoff in Picard. You wouldn't see a spinoff in Strange New Worlds. You don't throw that kind of money at something that is failing to perform. So yeah, I think we're definitely going to get plenty of Strange New World. Strange New World. I'm not crazy about standalone episodes. Episodic TV. I think episodic TV is it's a dinosaur. It's from another era. It's from a different era of TV where they thought, oh well, people don't watch every week. The edict used to be, well, you can't serialize a story because we want people to be able to jump in anywhere. But serialized storytelling, I just think, is better storytelling because you could be more in depth. You could really, really dive in. Like my favorite Star Trek series of them all was Deep Space Nine, and Deep Space Nine was the first one to do serialized storytelling. And I remember in the years between Enterprise and Discovery, those years where there was no Star Trek between Enterprise and Discovery, I always said when Star Trek comes back to TV, it needs to be serialized. Because if it's not serialized, it's going to feel really outdated and it's going to feel like it's from a completely different era. So, on that respect, I'm very disappointed to hear Strange New Worlds is going to be episodic because it really feels like a step backwards. However, I also think it's a smart move. I don't necessarily like it, but I think it's a smart move. The reason I think it's a smart move is because it helps differentiate them from what Discovery and Picard are doing. And if you're going to have multiple shows on at the same time, they need to be different. You can't put 3 of the same show on. Now, Discovery and Picard are already very, very different shows. But Strange New Worlds was going to be a starship show, the crew of a starship, just like Discovery. We've never had 2 starship shows on at the same time. Next Generation overlapped with Deep Space Nine, which was a space station show. The Next Generation ended, and Deep Space Nine and Voyager overlapped. We never had 2 starship shows overlapping. So if you're going to do that, you need to differentiate them. Each one has to be delivering something different. So it's not just, well, this is CSI Miami and this is CSI New York. It's the same show. It's just the location that's different. This allows them to do something different. So I think it's a smart move. I'm on board with it, but I'm disappointed by it at the same time, if that makes sense. James says, here's a hot take, guys. I honestly don't think Sonic needs a cinematic universe. I feel like I like the first movie, but I don't think it needs a sequel. I think there's definitely going to be a sequel, but cinematic universe, I don't know that they have enough for a cinematic universe. I mean, unless, like, what would that be? Altered Beast and I don't know, Kid Chameleon. You know, I don't know. Echo the Dolphin. Like, I don't know how you would do a cinematic universe for that. Punk Nerd says, just finished Picard. Did you like it? I thought Picard started strong. Loved the first couple episodes. Thought it ended strong. In the middle, thought it was kind of weak. I felt like it was spinning its wheels. That's just me, though. I think it started strong and ended strong. Middle, eh. Joey says Pee-wee's Big Holiday wasn't that good anyway. Strong disagree. I thought it was great. Certainly better than the second one. Big Top Pee-wee. Big Top Pee-wee was weak. But yeah, no, I'd say it's the second best Pee-wee Herman movie out of 3 Pee-wee Herman movies. But yeah, no, I enjoyed it quite a bit. Joey says, I didn't like that Pee-wee's Big Holiday completely destroyed the Pee-wee canon. Joey, there is no Pee-wee canon. There absolutely is no Pee-wee canon. You watch Pee-wee's Big Adventure, you watch Big Top Pee-wee, you watch Pee-wee's Playhouse. Every single one of them has Pee-wee in a different place, in a different setting, with different friends, and they never reference one another. Pee-wee Herman is like a cartoon character. He exists kind of out of time and space. There's no continuity to his actions at all. James says, does anybody remember Sesame Street song Yesterday, Today, and Tomorrow? Lisa, do you remember that one? I don't remember that one. That one doesn't sound familiar to me. Sav says, Enterprise and DS9 did it. Serialized storytelling? It's true, they did. Not completely, though. They kind of mixed it up between serialized and standalone. Gary says, Joe, here's a joke for you. The best episode of The Next Generation was Justice. The episode where Wesley falls in the flowers. Forget yesterday's Enterprise. Forget the best of both worlds. Yeah, Justice was a terrible episode. And then they completely ripped it off on an episode of The Orville. One of the reasons I don't really care for The Orville is The Orville does not have an original idea in their head. Every single episode of The Orville, every one, without fail, every episode of The Orville has an episode of Star Trek that you could correlate it with and say, they did that story. I forget what the Orville story was, but they did the same thing as Wesley Falls on the Flowers. They go to a planet, they break some rule they did not know existed, the crew members get arrested. I mean, they didn't make it, they fell in the flowers. It was something, but it was the same plot. The Orville drives me crazy, especially because it could be a great show if they just could write an original story. They can't do it. They just can't do it. I Want My Slaw says, I like Sonic the Hedgehog, but I think Dwayne Johnson would have been a better fit for the role instead of James Marsden. Interesting. I'm glad to see James Marsden get work. We don't see enough of James Marsden anymore. Connor says, is it true they are remastering The Muppet Show for Disney+? Oh, Connor, I'd love to know where you heard that. I'd love to know where you heard that. I have not heard that. I have been saying for quite some time, where the heck is The Muppet Show? And one question I keep saying is, well, maybe, just maybe they're holding it back because it's being remastered. I've never heard anyone confirm that. So if you heard that somewhere, I'm very anxious. I'd love to know where you read that, because if it's true, that is great news. It's really the only reason I could think that makes sense of why in the world is this show not on Disney+. If you tell me it's not on Disney Plus because we're remastering it for HD, I'm okay with it. That's worth waiting for. That's worth waiting for. As long as you don't ruin the aspect ratio. But I don't think they will, because they learned that lesson from The Simpsons. That did not go over well with The Simpsons. So I don't think they'd do that again. Puck Nerd says, I need date ideas during COVID. I don't know. I'm glad I'm not dating now. I'm glad I'm married. Dating now would not be enviable, I would have to say. Jamel says, how was your day? My day was good, Jamel. How was yours? Toaster Burner says, why is Disney releasing all this info on characters coming for season 2 of Mando to get us excited for the next season? I think what we're seeing now is a lot of stuff that would be announced at San Diego Comic-Con. These are the kind of, like Strange New Worlds. There was a rumor going around for some time that a new Star Trek series was going to be announced at San Diego this year. There is no San Diego this year. San Diego was canceled. So I think a lot of these things we're hearing, like The Mandalorian and Strange New Worlds, I think this is the studios just putting stuff out there because they don't have a venue now. They don't have a San Diego Comic-Con, so they're just doing what they can do. Bobby Bolin says hi. Hello, Bobby. Joey says, remastered is another way of saying crop, right? No, no, it's not. They are two different things. They are two different things. Remastered is making it look good in HD. I don't think they would ever be crazy enough to crop it after the blowback they got from The Simpsons, because now they have to fix The Simpsons, which, from what I understand, is going to be in the next week or so. Greg says Sega has a huge universe: Streets of Rage, Golden Axe, Comic Zone, Phantasy Star, Alex Kidd, Shinobi. That's true, but do they fit together though? Like, I mean, could you have Sonic the Hedgehog in a Streets of Rage movie? Like, when you talk cinematic universe, I don't know that has the potential to really cross over in that way, because it feels like they're too different. James says apparently season 3 of The Orville is moving to Hulu. I guess the Fox network screwed over that show. But thoughts? Yeah, no. Well, it had lousy ratings. I mean, that's the bottom line. It had lousy ratings. It was doing terrible on Fox, but it has a devoted fan base. There are people who love Seth MacFarlane. There are people that love that show. So the people who like it really, really like it, and they're putting it somewhere where it's probably going to perform stronger. Like, it's a niche show. Same as Star Trek. It's a niche show. I remember when Star Trek Discovery was first announced and they said it was going to CBS All Access. I knew people who were angry and were saying, put it on TV, put it on network TV. We shouldn't have to pay for it. Put it on network TV. And I kept saying, you do not want it on network TV. You absolutely do not want Star Trek on network TV, because that means it will get canceled after 13 episodes. Because Star Trek is niche programming, and it has never, ever done well on network TV. NBC in the 60s, it got canceled every year. It was on 3 years, it got canceled all 3 years. Season 1 and Season 2, letter writing campaigns brought it back. So they got a ton of letters. They said, okay, we'll bring it back. Both years, Season 1, Season 2, letter writing campaigns. Season 3, they still had a letter writing campaign. Didn't work that time. So yeah, you're talking about a show that got canceled every year on NBC. And that was a time when competition, there were only 3 networks. Competition was so much less that shows would last longer. They would get a second chance. Like Cheers was famously one of the worst rated shows on television its first season, but then people found it over the summer in reruns, and it did really well over the summer months. Suddenly it came back. It was a hit in season 2. Well, today, with the competition, with the cable channels and the streaming channels, the competition is fierce. Networks don't allow shows that kind of chance to survive. If they don't get the ratings, they are gone like that. They will order 13 episodes. All 13 episodes may not even get aired. Sometimes they'll have episodes that don't ever make it to the air. Let me give you a show sci-fi fans will remember. Firefly. Firefly did not survive a single season on Fox. It was canceled in under 22, 22 episodes was the standard full-length season at that time. Couldn't make it. So I kept saying, yeah, you do not want a Star Trek show on CBS proper, because it's too expensive, and their ratings are in procedurals like Hawaii Five-0 and Blue Bloods and NCIS and all these procedurals that are not expensive shows to make. And if your audience, the mainstream audience, is flocking to these cheaper shows, and then you put on this super, super, super expensive show and it doesn't get the ratings that a dozen cheaper shows are getting, it's gone. So all along I said All Access is the best home for Star Trek. It's perfect. It's exactly where I would want Star Trek to be. And I'm not really a big fan of the Orville. The Orville kind of drives me crazy because it should just be called Plagiarism, the series. But no, this is a smart decision. It belongs on Hulu. A streaming audience, it's niche programming. you're delivering it direct to the audience. They got to pay. They want to see it. They got to pay for a subscription. That's where a show like that belongs. It's where a show like Star Trek belongs. It's just smart. It's just smart. Joey says, "Who do you think is going to win The Masked Singer tomorrow?" I don't know. I've only seen a clip here and there of The Masked Singer online. I've never actually watched an episode. Greg says there are hacks of Sonic in Streets of Rage, but crossovers would be strange. A lot of properties that could be movies. That I would agree with. Yeah, definitely. Venom says, "Did you hear Ruby Rose is not playing Batwoman for season 2? I did. I just read that a little bit before the stream started. I don't like Batwoman. I tried. I find it to be really cheesy. Like, really cheesy. I wanted to like it. I gave it a shot. To be truthful, I don't really like most of the CW superhero shows anymore. The only one I really like is Legends of Tomorrow. Legends of Tomorrow, still firing on all cylinders. Flash hasn't been that good in a couple years now. Supergirl, oh my God, did the quality of Supergirl ever nosedive? That was really good in season 1. Now it's almost unwatchable. So no, I couldn't get into Batwoman. But yeah, this is very, very strange. I mean, it's certainly, it's happened before. It's happened before that a show has recast the lead role, but it's rare. On a superhero show, the only one I could think of is Superboy the series. Superboy the series was a show they used to shoot right in Greg's backyard in the Orlando area. First season starred John Hames Newton as Superboy. Well, the show got renewed for a second season, but John Hames Newton was fired, and they brought in a different actor, Gerard Christopher, to play Superboy. And, you know, a lot of the supporting cast was the same. Stacey Hyduke was playing Lana Lang. She came back, and some of the guest stars were the same, like Michael J. Pollard as Mr. Mxyzptlk. So, I mean, it was the same show, same continuity, but suddenly the lead actor was different. Captain Marvel did it too. Shazam, Captain Marvel in the 70s. There were 2 actors who played Captain Marvel. There's John Davidson and Jackson. Oh, I'm forgetting his name. I'm sorry, but Jackson Bostwick. But yeah, there were 2 Captain Marvels. So it's rare, but it's happened. Sab says, "I don't like Batwoman." I don't like it either. Cleo says, "Thoughts on Birds of Prey flick?" Loved it. Absolutely loved it. Saw it 3 times in the movies. Bought it as soon as it became available for digital, which normally I don't do. Normally I wait for the physical. But with that movie, you know, it was COVID-19. We were stuck in the house, and it became available. And I'm like, screw it. I want to watch Birds of Prey again. I love this movie. So yeah, no, that's terrific movie. Terrific movie. Anyone who hasn't seen it, I can't recommend that enough. Connor says, why was the Great Muppet Caper the only Jim Henson directed theatrical Muppet movie? Couple reasons. Number one, he had never directed a movie before. So when it came time to do the Muppet movie, he wanted to direct the Muppet movie, but they felt Lord Grade Productions felt that he wasn't ready to direct because he'd never directed a movie before. So they suggested he get James Frawley. James Frawley did a great job with the Muppet movie. By the second one, he was ready to direct. He wanted to direct. By the time it came to do a third one, Henson had kind of moved on from the Muppets. I mean, obviously he was there. He performed in it. He was Kermit. But it was Frank Oz's movie. Because at this time, he had moved on and had done The Dark Crystal. And he'd already done The Dark Crystal. He directed the Dark Crystal. And he was getting ready to direct Labyrinth. And he kind of felt like, well, the Muppets, I want to move on. I want to do bigger things. So his head was kind of in the next thing. There's a great biography about Jim Henson. I highly recommend it. It's called, I believe, just Jim Henson, a biography. But yeah, it's a great book. Joey says, I still don't understand what the John Campea show is about. It seems to be him talking about movies, but he doesn't have any real influence on what Hollywood does. Well, yeah, I mean, well, neither do I. I mean, we're talking about movies here, but I don't have any influence either. It's just a show like this. It's just people talking about movies. He's very knowledgeable. He's extremely knowledgeable. Most of what he says is pretty spot on. I disagree with him occasionally. He comes out with some weird ideas every now and then, but generally speaking, I think he's got a pretty good track record because he's he's very knowledgeable about movies. Gary says, Joe, what did you think of the finale of Survivor Winners at War? I'm sorry, I meant to email you back. You wanted to do a video, like a live stream or something, talking about the Winners at War finale. I'm sorry, I've been really I've been in a crazy place lately. I'm working from home, and it's a very high stress time. So let's just put it that way. It's a very high stress time. I mean, I think the right guy won. Of the final three, I think the right guy won. I don't think when you do something like Edge of Extinction that the person who comes back should even get a single vote. I really don't. In my mind, they lost. They lost. They were voted out, and that's the game. You get voted out. So okay, so they endured and won their way back. It does not change the fact that they failed in the social game. They still got voted out. The social game, they failed. The other two people, because you got three finalists, the other two people survived everything, the social game and the physical game. So I don't think that a person who comes back from like Edge of Extinction should ever even have a chance of winning. But that's just me. That's just me. Joey says, what is Tenet about? You know, Joey, I'm not sure myself. I've seen the trailers and I don't know. Bohemian says, Legends of Tomorrow did a somewhat crossover with Supernatural. This is true. I thought it was kind of a weak crossover, though. It was like a half-assed crossover. Cleo God says, it was hard for me to get through. What was? I'm not sure what we're talking about. I apologize. I'm not sure what show you're referencing, Cleo. James says, anyone remember the Fido Dido bumpers for CBS Saturday? I don't know what Fido Dido is. I apologize. Sav says the Orville is an awesome show. Yeah, Sav, I'd love to agree with you. But hey, to each their own. I know people really like the Orville. I would like the Orville if they could just be original. The fact that everything is plagiarized drives me crazy. I think if they, like in season 3 or something, find their own voice, I'd turn around and actually really enjoy the show. Lisa says, Jim Henson wanted to go into bigger and better things. Jane always said he had great plans, even into the next life. This is true. Connor says, do I have Jim Henson's autograph? I do not. I wish. I do not have Jim Henson's autograph. Joey says, do you have to work from home on Memorial Day? No, we do have off on Memorial Day. Sav says, I like a lot of Jim Henson's work. Jim Henson was a genius, man. I'm telling you. Jim Henson was a genius. James loves Jim Henson's work. Everybody loves Jim Henson's work, don't they? Connor says, I was surprised to read your Daphne and Velma review. I really did not like that movie. May need to give it another shot. Yeah, I watched that earlier. I was thoroughly entertained by that. It had a very Junior X-Files feel to it, where Velma's the skeptic and Daphne believes in the supernatural. It's very much a kid's movie, but that's fine. It's Scooby-Doo. Why not? It should be a kid's movie, right? But yeah, I thought it was a lot of fun. Whole lot of fun. I saw 2 movies in one day, and believe me, Daphne and Velma was the better of the two. The other movie I watched was R.I.P.D. R.I.P.D. with Jeff Bridges and Ryan Reynolds. Movie I wanted to see in the theater and missed, and it's been sitting on my Vudu account for years now. It's been sitting there for years. Always heard it wasn't very good, but finally got around to watching it today, and it's a rip-off of Men in Black. It's just a rip-off of Men in Black, but not even a good rip-off of Men in Black. Like, it's not funny. It's just not funny. Platex 2 says, do I know if Picard is getting a Blu-ray release? They have not yet announced a Blu-ray release, but I'd be shocked if it didn't get one. I believe Picard will definitely get a Blu-ray release. Short Treks is coming to Blu-ray next month. I already pre-ordered my copy. Short Treks, if you haven't seen Short Treks, it's worth picking up. It's worth picking up for The Trouble with Edward alone. The Trouble with Edward was the Tribble episode. It's fantastic. It is so good. And the Harry Mudd one with Rainn Wilson. Those are the 2 best Short Treks, and they are just phenomenal. I say pick up the Short Treks Blu-ray for those 2 alone. Puck Nerd says, I like the Orville. A lot of people like the Orville. Lisa says, I just had a thought. Imagine if when we do get to the afterlife, there's all kinds of new Jim Henson stuff to see. That would be heaven. It would. I'd like that. That would be great. Get there, watch some new Henson stuff. James says Imperial March is the most iconic Star Wars song. Possibly. I think I'd go with the main title, but yeah, it's right up there. Darth Vader says, did you watch The Mandalorian? What's your favorite episode? I love The Mandalorian. It's great. What would be my favorite episode? I got to watch it again because, I'm a couple months removed from it now. So it all kind of runs together in my head. But I know the one Bryce Dallas Howard directed with the ATST Walker. That was a pretty good one. That was a pretty good one. I might go with that one. But the season finale was strong too. It was really good. I watched the final 4 episodes of Clone Wars. Oh man, they were really well done. And I'm not a huge fan of the Clone Wars animated series. Generally speaking, I was not a huge fan of that show. I liked Star Wars Rebels and Star Wars Resistance, both a lot better than Clone Wars. But the last 4 episodes of Clone Wars were terrific. They really tied into episode 3. I'd say they make episode 3 better. I'd be interested in seeing somebody take the last 4 episodes of Clone Wars and episode 3 and splice them and put them together chronologically so you could sit down and watch the whole 4-hour epic as it plays out chronologically. I think that would be a lot of fun. I'd love to see that. Connor says, did you see the 2 live versions straight to DVD Scooby-Doo movies? I saw at least one of them. I think my kids watched it. Those movies kind of bug me because of the ridiculous CGI dog. Sav says everybody likes different things. There are things we both like and agree on and things we don't. Very true. I'm one of the only people in the world who doesn't like the movie The Princess Bride. Everybody loves that movie. People go nuts for The Princess Bride. I don't dig it. I don't understand what the appeal is with that movie. So everybody's different. James says Spider-Verse is the best Spider-Man movie ever made. And I see that I would disagree with too. I really like Spider-Verse. I love it. It's a great movie. I'd say it's one of the best Spider-Man movies, but I think Spider-Man 2 is still the best Spider-Man movie. Joey says Sonic the Hedgehog was a good movie that should have marketed itself on its strengths instead of pulling a publicity stunt and pulling out a fake CGI. Joey, it's been proven that was not a publicity stunt. I know you go for the conspiracy theories, but that has been proven. The toys that came out all are in the mold of the old appearance, because they didn't have time to change the toys. They would not have done that if it was a publicity stunt. So yeah, it's that was not a publicity stunt. Greg says Campy is a shill. Used to like him, but he's pretty bad now. I'd be curious to hear why you say that, Greg. I don't get that from him at all. He seems, he always seems like he's very sincere. He's definitely knowledgeable. Cleo says, I agree, Sav. I watch a lot of movies, but Birds of Prey is probably the worst flick I've seen in a really long time. Wow, that is shocking. I'd be curious to hear why you thought that, Cleo. I thought it was a fantastic movie. It was written by Christina Hodson, who also wrote Bumblebee, which is, I love Bumblebee. Bumblebee just had so much heart. Christina Hodson, I think, is probably the best writer working right now in movies. Let me put it this way: those kind of movies, the blockbuster superhero, that kind of film. I just think she is a real talent. Like, she blew me away with Bumblebee, and then Birds of Prey I just thought was equally fantastic. And I'm very excited because she's writing the Flash movie, and I can't wait to see what she does with that. Connor says, what popcorn brand do I use for the popcorn machine? I use Orville Redenbacher. You can sponsor me, Orville. You got permission. Get in touch. I'll take that corporate sponsorship. All right, guys, I have to get going because it is 10 o'clock, and that means it's time to record the podcast. Now, before I go, let me remind you, because this is still relatively new, Patreon supporters, if you are a Patreon supporter, you will get to watch the live stream, it's not a live stream, the live recording, the feed of the live recording tonight. Because when we're done recording, we record on video. I go, I edit it, I make it all nice and neat as a podcast, put it out. Podcast comes out on Friday, nice and edited. But that raw footage, the raw video footage of Jacob, J2H from the J2H channel, the raw footage of he and I recording the show, completely unedited, that goes up on Patreon for Patreon members tonight. So you'll be able to see it tonight. The finished, polished podcast will go out to the rest of the world on Friday, but you can see it tonight before I go to bed. All right, guys, that's all I got to say. Gary says, got a stream ending joke for us. What do you call two ninjas working together? A pair of sneakers. There you go. All right, guys. New podcast on Friday. Check it out wherever you get podcasts. Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify. You can just say to your Alexa, hey, Alexa, play the all-new MegaPodTastic Podcast. Or just, I think it just comes up as just play the MegaPodTastic Podcast. You can play with it. You'll find it. But that'll be Friday. And until then, there'll be more videos here. We'll be live again next Tuesday. All right, guys, keep wearing those pajamas.